Sometimes you just have to laugh. We talk plenty of Padres and deliver a few laughs too on Better Woods weekday.
It's time to talk Padres baseball.
This place is electric.
Our 97.3 The Fan staff is together to break down everything, both on and off the field, with the San Diego Padres in our commercial-free Epic Padres Roundtable, sponsored by Epic Wings. Buckle up, Friar Faithful. We've got a lot to discuss. Now, here's your host, Ben Higgins.
Hey, it's the best hour of the week, commercial-free Padres talk. It is our Epic Wings, Epic Padres Roundtable on 97.3 The Fan. I'm Ben Higgins, and I am joined by our panel of regular 97.3 The Fan hosts, Braden Soprenet.
What's up?
Stephen Woods, back from Hawaii. Woodsy, welcome back. Good to be back. Chris Ello next to me.
Hi.
And our special guest this week, former Padres pitcher, 2011 opening day starter, and former Padres pre- and post-game show host Tim Stauffer is with us. Tim, it's great to have you.
Thanks for having me on, boys.
Well, we're going to talk a lot of baseball here, but since we just had the trade deadline earlier this week, let's start by evaluating the moves the Padres made. And obviously, Casey Mize did not have a great debut last night against the Arizona Diamondbacks. But, Tim, why don't you just give us your thoughts, first of all, on the two moves that the Padres made to bolster their starting rotation?
Yeah, I think it was encouraging seeing them go that direction, right? They've been on that bubble. Which way do they go? Do they buy? Do they sell? I think every guy in that clubhouse was hoping they did what they did. Getting a veteran like Robbie Ray and then another veteran, Casey Mize, who's had a great year. I think yesterday, blip in the radar. It's a long season, 30-plus starts. You look at one, that happens more to guys like me than him. But, I think he's going to be just fine. I think he was a good piece, good complementing piece. And Robbie Ray, I had a brief little overlap with him at Arizona. He's proven himself. He knows the NOS. He knows the league. I think bringing those guys in to eat some innings to get to that back end of the bullpen is exactly what they needed to do, and I think the moves were good moves.
As a player, I'd imagine the trade deadline can be a little nuanced. I'm sure you hope your team's a buyer, you're in contention. Usually things have gone pretty wrong if you're a seller. At the same time, if you're maybe on the fringe of the roster, a buyer could mean that you're out of a job at the trade deadline. I don't think you were ever dealt at the deadline, but what were your experiences kind of that time of the year?
I was never good enough to be dealt at the deadline. So I had my job security was kind of day to day, as I like to joke. But, there's really 2010 is what sticks out in my mind for our team when we were playing well and we were buying, which was a new thing for me. And we brought in a couple pieces. And I think just giving that excitement to a clubhouse. Hey, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Guys moving their families cross country, different places in a short window where it's a month or two. You can have a bad month in April and rebound, but if you have a bad first month after you're traded, then, it makes it look like an unfavorable trade. That being said, I think guys want teams to go for it. Every team, all 30 teams, they want to go for it. They don't want to be selling. So I think the moves they made are what they needed. I know we're going to talk about some guys hopefully coming back to help them out as well. And, those are the pieces that they needed, that starting pitching depth.
2010, that was Ryan Ludwig, right? Was the main pickup there at the trade deadline?
Yes. Yeah, he was a good guy, but he had a tough little go. Petco Park was not friendly to him for that little stretch, and I think he probably still has some nightmares to this day.
Chris, I know you guys have been reacting on your show to the trade deadline all week, but give the roundtable your thoughts on Casey Mize and Robbie Ray and what the Padres gave up also to acquire those two pitchers.
Yeah, obviously the same as what Tim said. This is the team, showed A.J. Preller, the way they wanted it to go by winning 8 out of 9 games, and that turned them into buyers. I'm going to use a line that Sam Levitt tweeted out. I thought it was the funniest line of the whole trade deadline, and he tweeted out that 2 hours after the trade was made for Robbie Ray, he said, "I've never seen so many Janelle Henderson experts in my life." It was funny how many people,
Hernandez. I know you know him so well.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good example. So, but my point being that everybody was so critical. Like, how can we possibly give up somebody? I don't know that anybody's ever even seen him play before. So you have to give up something to get something. I'm a little worried about trading Cash Mayfield. I guess, he sounds like, looks like he could be a really good pitcher, but I'm all about trying to win when there's a chance to win. And we've talked about this. The Padres window is for the next, hopefully, 3 or 4 more years, but with Manny and those contracts and Fernando, you got to try to win when you have a chance.
And Braden, this was a bit different for A.J. Preller in that he truly went with a couple of rental pitchers, guys who are free agents at the end of the year, no one with extra control. It simply is a go for it and try to improve your team right now sort of trade deadline.
Yeah, I thought that was a little interesting. I don't know. They probably didn't have the capital to go get a guy with multiple years of control, and to try to get two of the best arms that they could for what they could afford. I thought they did a really good job. I think the icing on the cake would have been a more proven left-handed bat, but Gage Workman has an opportunity now to make a roster spot here, and he had a lot of very similar stats to Brent Rooker when the Padres acquired him in a off-season trade. So the way his body is built, maybe he can be a future piece for this team. But overall, I mean, their goal was we got to improve the pitching staff, we got to improve the starting staff. They didn't give up anything from their bullpen, which I thought they might have to do to get a starting pitcher. So they kept the elite bullpen that they have intact. They didn't have to part ways with major league talent. They give up a couple of prospects that some people think will be good one day. But I'm all in on trying to make your major league team as best as possible, because quite frankly, there's so many Padres years where you're not even talking about buying, at the deadline. As Tim was saying, it was kind of an anomaly in 2010 that they were able to do that, and it's exciting. So I don't want to go back to the days of selling. I really don't. I think they did the right thing, and I don't think Casey Mize's outing yesterday shows what he's going to be for the Padres.
Yeah, and Woods, we talked about that on our show. I feel kind of bad for Casey Mize.
Sure.
You never get a second chance to make a first impression, and now Padres fans think, oh, we got this lousy pitcher. He's not. He's a good pitcher. We talked to Eno Saris from The Athletic. So the guy is a good pitcher, and you've got to give him a chance here, and he should contribute. Is the moves, though, are they enough, you think, to lift the Padres where they want to go here?
I mean, you want to go to the World Series and win a World Series. So I don't know that they're enough. But then again, I don't know that they're not. Nobody does, and the bat would have been really nice. I really thought Preller would find a bat. The
names that they're listing were very close, and then of course, Alec Burleson hits 3 home runs the day that they did not acquire him.
Yeah, hits 3 just monster shots at Yankee Stadium the day of the deadline. I mean, a bat would have really helped. But again, if you're the GM, your job is identifying what you're lacking and going out and handling business, and he did. And again, not giving up Salas or Cruz Schoolcraft or any major league talent. I thought it was a really solid deadline from A.J. Preller, but that you can't judge that today. You're gonna have to see how it goes, and if they don't make the playoffs, probably should have sold. That's the tough part.
Does A.J. Preller have any kind of the criticism around the country that he gets in San Diego?
Yeah.
From the fans? Because I don't see it. I mean, almost everybody around baseball, everything I see at least is like, I love A.J. Preller. I love what he does. He always is in there fighting and trying to give his team a chance.
Which he is.
And he's kind of regarded as a trade deadline almost savant for what he's done over the years. Yet here in San Diego, the criticism of this guy piles up, and I don't always get it.
Well, it's such a weird job to have. Brian Cashman is one that comes to mind. David Dombrowski is one that comes to mind. There's very few guys willing to take the chances that A.J. Preller will take. Now, I don't know that's always the best move, right? If you go play blackjack tonight, Chris, you can make some aggressive moves, and people will look at you. If you're playing one-on-one with the dealer and you're hitting on, and you're splitting your tens, fine. But if you're splitting tens with other people at the table, they're pissed, right? Like, so A.J. Preller makes moves that not every GM will do. And I think, yes, you should applaud him for that. But yes, there's a reason they don't make some of the moves that they make, and it's because they don't want to mortgage the future.
Now, the Padres are 2 games out of a playoff spot. In the American League, I think there's 5 teams that are within 1.5 games of a playoff spot. So closer to the Padres, and 4 of them were sellers.
They sold
at the deadline.
Which is tough.
I think fans, and Tim, I think fans really hate when your team is close and then punts on the season or throws in the towel or perceived to have thrown in the towel at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I just feel like the buzz around this team the last 5 years has been different than we've seen in the last 15 years around town. And I think the fact that AJ's giving it a shot, going for it each time, not selling when we're in the hunt a game or two, you can make that up in a good stretch. We did what we had to do against teams that we should have beaten. I think from a fan's perspective, when you understand and know a general manager's name, it's either a good or bad thing, right? He's doing something. He's not sitting around sitting on his hands idly. So, I think some of the moves Peter made towards the end of his run there, getting these guys long term, and what AJ's done has made the team relevant nationally. Obviously, the players in the clubhouse don't really care about that too much. They want to win. They want to go to the World Series. But I think a lot of that is bringing in top-tier talent, making moves going forward each and every year. Yes, you're going to have to give up some guys that could help you down the line, but prospects are called prospects for a reason, right? We never know how they're going to pan out. Sure, premium spots like Salas behind the dish, those are guys you keep a little closer to you. So not giving him up was huge. But I think, the buzz around the team, the stadium, the energy, you get it in the hunt. You're within a couple games. You go on a good little run. It's all about momentum that time of year. We saw those runs the Giants made back in the day. It's about playing well at the right time. And I think if we can bring some pieces back, get the pitching pretty good with that bullpen. Offense has definitely improved the last few weeks. So if you can get it all gelling at the right time, you never know what can happen in baseball.
It's our commercial-free Epic Wings, Epic Padres Roundtable on 97.3 The Fan. Epic Wings, always fresh, never frozen. Woods, you mentioned, you don't know if the Padres, have enough to win a World Series, but kind of teased this question earlier. They have spent some capital to acquire some pitching, so they are buyers at the deadline. How far now do they need to get to make this a successful season? Some people will say they have to win the World Series for it to be successful. Sure. I don't buy into the fact that 29 teams fail every year and only one team is ultimately successful. But, last year, losing in a wild card round to the Cubs, not even getting a home playoff game, I don't know that was enough for that team last year. Where do you feel like, at the end of the day, in November, you're going to be happy with how far the Padres got this season?
I mean, I picked them to finish about 500, right? So
they're close to pace still.
Yeah, exactly. I love the playoffs. They're the most stressful sports watch of all time. I love watching my team play in the playoffs. I also hate watching my team play in the playoffs when they don't do well. So I think, honestly, man, if you're in that front office and you make the playoffs, I think that is a check mark on the whiteboard, right? Made the playoffs. Can't say much to us now. I'd like to see them go to the next level. But I'm not going to sit in here and go, well, if they don't win a pennant, it was a terrible year. It's been a terrible year. It's been a terrible year. A couple of decent stretches notwithstanding. It's been a really mediocre, subpar, bottom of the barrel year,
if
right?
Winning the World Series is what it's all about. The San Diego Padre franchise has now had 57 terrible years in a row.
Terrible years, man. And I think there are people that look at it that way, and that's fair. I'm not saying you're wrong, but Benny, for me, I can't put a number of games won in October on it to say, well, that was a success, because if they lose in the NLCS, I'm going to be gutted and devastated and think, man, we should have won that, like I did against the Dodgers a couple years ago.
I also think how you play in the playoffs can be indicative of the success of the season, right? If you go up against a juggernaut and you play them well and you don't win, is it a failure? No. I mean, sometimes teams play well, but if you're playing against a team and how you're finishing the year, you're pitching well, you're hitting well, and then you just give it up and you just, losing and getting beat are two different things. So I think baseball's such a long season.
What about the Brewers last year? What do you guys consider? Was that a good season for the Brewers? They had a monster regular season. That must have been so much fun to watch as a Brewers fan. You roll through it, and then you play the worst baseball in the history of the playoffs. It was excruciating to watch. It was horrific. You didn't show up at all. How do you feel if you're a Brewers fan?
They must have liked it, because it looks like they're going for the exact same result this year.
Same result this year.
Because they could have traded. Obviously, we can get into it. But
but how do you, if you're a Brewers fan, isn't there a part of you, you've also never won a World Series, aren't you going, okay, building blocks, I guess. We ran into, one of the best teams of all time, the Dodgers, but they didn't hit. They didn't do what had gotten them to the best record in baseball last year. They didn't do it. They didn't hit at all, not even a little. And it was an excruciating watch. Must have been excruciating for Brewers fans, but is it a success or is it not?
I think, as Tim said, it's a nuanced discussion. But, Braden, we all agree, if they don't make the playoffs, that's a failure. Because then you shouldn't have bought, you should have sold, you should have acquired players for the future. So at the very minimum, they've got to get to the playoffs to justify what A.J. Preller now did. Clearly.
I think to an extent. I mean, I think if they don't make the playoffs, it would be a failure. I don't think that changes the decision you make at the deadline, though, because I think that's hindsight. I think at the time that they were making this move with the players that they have, and I think I said this in the last roundtable before, I think they have a decision before the season even starts based on what the team is and the contracts that they have, that if we're close and within 5 games of a playoff spot, they're probably going to try to go for it, right? I mean, that's just kind of, otherwise signing these players was a big mistake, because you're not signing them to these long contracts because you want them till they're 40. You are signing them for these years. Like, these are the years, regardless of how good, maybe Manny and Xander is doing statistically. I think the expectations of this team, going into the season, did anybody think this was a World Series team when we left spring training?
No.
I mean, I didn't think so. I mean, just based on you were hoping for some stuff, but I think right now the expectations for this team was they're going to be in competition for a playoff spot, but I think making the playoffs would have been successful, and not making it is, the team with the core that they have is good enough to make the playoffs. They should be, compared to the National League. Now, in terms of in the playoffs, if they make the wild card, and even if they lose their first 2 games, I still consider the season a success because of the fact of how poor they played and what their pitching was, right? If you were to tell,
but so many teams make the playoffs now, right?
But the Padres have never done it 3 years in a row ever.
Yeah.
You have to understand the context of, we have to view this thing from way outside of, since 2020, it's we've been making the playoffs all the time. We got to finally make that next step. I totally get that, but I also see it from a standpoint of, before 2020, they made the playoffs 5 times in 60 years. This is a lot better than it's been. And I'm not saying settle for that, but based on the roster that they were able to put together with the budget restrictions that they had and taking chances on pitchers. Remember, Walker Buehler was brought in. I know I mentioned this before. He was brought in to compete for the 5 spot, not be part of your rotation. And the fact that this team was able to make it to the playoffs as assembled, knowing that Pivetta was going to miss most of the season, and Joe Musgrove, who was expected to pitch, was going to miss most of the season, I consider that to be a success. I think if you make the playoffs, is definitely successful. But to go back to the Brewers, I think the Brewers, if they don't make it to the pennant, win the pennant, I think it'd be a catastrophic failure because of where they're at status-wise, right? They've gotten to that next level. I think the Padres have kind of been trending in the opposite direction, but right now, if everybody wanted to say you wanted to be in the playoffs all the time, when the Cardinals were making the playoffs all the time, I heard all those comparisons. We want to be like the Cardinals. This is one of those years that the Cardinals used to put together, and I would consider it a success if they made the playoffs.
Chris, what in your mind now constitutes a successful season for the Padres?
Well, I'm going to, I'll start with what Woodsy said. If you don't make the playoffs, or if you lose in the playoffs, or if you lose in the World Series, there's no way it's not going to be a punch to the gut, right? There's just no other way. But having said that, I've often felt, looking at a bigger, broader picture, I think we as fans, we as people who support this franchise, I think beyond what the Padres have given us the last 7 years, which is relevance every single year, right down to the final 2 weeks of the season. I don't know that the Padres have played a who cares game since 2019. I don't think we have a right to expect more than that. The biggest crapshoot in sports is the baseball playoffs. It's not the best way to determine the champion, but it's the only thing they can do. I already think this is almost a successful season. I really do. I know that if they go 0-60 from here, I'll be pretty disappointed. But they're in the hunt, man. They got a shot. I think that's all we can ask for.
It's our Epic Wings, Epic Padres Roundtable. I don't mean to get dark, but we all know that in the end, it's probably going to end in disappointment. Maybe it won't this year. Maybe it'll be different. But if the Padres don't win the World Series, it comes to an end, regular season, wild card, division, NLCS, whenever. What do you think ultimately will be the cause? Where will they come up short? Is it starting pitching? Is it offense? Where is this team not now set up for success? Woods, you're kind of thinking about this one right now.
Well, strangely enough, I think I'm just going to focus on what has let us down in previous playoffs. It's been the offense. And you can piece together, man, with 2 good starters and the bullpen you have, you can piece together with the off days built in, you can piece together wins. We've seen the Dodgers do it. We've seen a lot of teams do it. All hands on deck. Stammen's actually been pretty good managing those games this year. They're not easy to do, I would imagine, but he's done a pretty good job doing it. So what will ultimately let us down, I think, are the bats. Which is, it stands to reason because you're going against the best team. They're also cobbling it together with their incredible starters or their incredible bullpen that got them there too. It makes sense. You're going to see the best of the best. You know, don't be surprised if you see Adrian Morejon in the 4th, you know, to pitch the 4th and the 5th or the heart of the so-and-so's order because you need those outs because you have a 1-run lead. Like, it's going to be the bats.
I'll get even more specific because we've seen the Padres offense has been a top, 5 offense since the middle of June. That's really good. They've been putting together a ton of runs. But I still don't trust, and especially with Gavin Sheets dealing with the foot injury, and, you know, he has not been as powerful as lately. Tatis has 9 home runs now, hits a huge one. You need home runs to win in the playoffs, and I still don't know if the Padres consistently hit home runs enough to be a playoff winner in every single series down the line.
Yeah.
Does that make a lot of sense?
Sure, yeah. They show the stats every year, man. The team that hits the ball over the fence in the playoffs are the ones that win traditionally the most games, and including the most important game. But, yeah, man, for me, you know, stringing together 4 or 5 hits to get, you know, a couple of runs early,
especially off of
yeah,
Wheeler, Sanchez. Like,
exactly.
You're not just going to out-hit those guys, right? You got to get a walk, a 2-run bomb.
Yep, an error, a hit by a pitch, you know, a pass ball. Like, so much has to go your way, and you have to be really, really good, and you have to have the ability to slug and hit the ball out of the ballpark in October. And I haven't really seen it from this team in our previous playoffs.
Tim, what about you? I mean, do you feel offense is where it will let them down? Or, I mean, last week we said they clearly don't have enough starting pitching to go anywhere. Has that changed in your mind based on the trade deadline?
The starting pitching is enough to get them there. I mean, I think if you look at, you know, our 1-2 versus other teams 1-2, it's a tough matchup to look that way. So I think ultimately it does come down to the offense, how they're going to respond to the 1-2, because some of these series you're not even going to see the number 3 guys.
Right.
So you might see these 1 and 2s, you know, 1 or 2 times, depending how the days work. So I think it is up to the offense. I think, you know, it's a lot of pressure when you go, especially probably going to be going on the road to start, right, in their house and facing, you know, their best pitchers and getting behind, you know, 3 runs early on, and those guys are reeling. It's a tough uphill battle for those guys. So I think it does put a lot more pressure on the offense. I think, like I said, the starting pitching might be enough to get us there, but I think we've got enough bullpen depth and exceptional bullpen depth that other teams do not have, that the starting pitching can be maybe, you know, push down the road a little bit. If you get through 4 innings and you've given up 2, I think you would take that most days in a 3-game playoff.
Yeah, and
series.
I think Tim makes a good point. You may look at the offense going, it wasn't enough to beat Jacob Mizorowski or a Tarek Skubal, whoever you're facing in the playoffs. But Chris, I think you know, you're still like me. You look in the newspaper and you look at the pitching matchup for that day. If the Padres get to the playoffs, I don't know that there's ever going to be a day where you go, oh, yeah, Padres have the clear advantage in the pitching matchup in any game that they're going to play in the playoffs.
With any team in contention.
Even if Joe Musgrove comes back, you're going to look at the guys they're facing. Oh, yeah, but that guy that they've got going today is really, really good. We're going to have to find a way to win this game late or win this game with our bullpen. They're never going to be just the clear, oh, yeah, we've got the pitching advantage in this game. Doesn't that mean it's still the pitching that's maybe not enough for the Padres to go all the way?
To me, if the Padres get into the playoffs, likely they're going to go to Chicago again. The Cubs are going to be the first wild card. So if the Padres are the second wild card, 4 or 5 matchup, the Cubs are the one team that doesn't have a starting pitcher that scares the daylights out of you. Gosman they picked up. Clay Holmes, we'll see if he can get healthy. Imanaga. But we did lose to Jamison Taillon last year in the clinching game.
Just DFA'd, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
The Braves also are injury riddled. They didn't have
beyond
too
Chris
many.
Sale, they don't have anything
They could
that's
be an opponent as
magical, right? So I know what you're saying, but I think whatever starting pitcher is listed in the paper that day or online that day gives the Padres a chance, right? A fighting chance. I'm going to just bring up one thing that I don't think this team has done well this year and in the playoffs, because you guys talked about the one way to score in the playoffs, and that is to hit the home run. The second way to score is to be productive and make good outs and situation hit. When you get that lead runner to second base, that run needs to score that inning. I don't care how. Get it in.
Oh, yeah.
The Padres are the masters this year of first and second, nobody out. No runs. I at least happened 100 times, and I'm sure it's analytically written somewhere. Braden, find it for me. But so I think those two things, and I don't trust them. Situational hitting.
Braden, ultimately, what's your biggest question mark now remaining for this team?
Well, I do want to bring up that video of the guy that wanted to call out the Brewers for being frauds because they only hit really bad pitching. In the minutia of that, you notice that the Padres were 30th against really bad pitching, and then they were top 8 as an offense in weighted on-base average against the best arms in Major League Baseball. So it would be awful for us to play the Cubs if they don't have good pitching, or the Braves. I think we got to try to face Milwaukee or LA or something like that. But I agree with the offense, but I'm not going to view it from a predictive mindset. I'm going to view it from the fact that at the end of the season, we're going to go, if this offense woke up in the middle months like they should have, they wouldn't have been in this position to begin with. And what I mean by that is if they would have hit like half as good as they're doing for the last month, right? Half as good as last month. They're probably where the Cubs are right now, right? With like how like the bullpen did. I mean, the pitching during those like the month of May and June wasn't like completely falling apart yet. And by the time the offense got it going, then it was like, all right, well, we got nobody left to pitch, starting pitching wise. I think the whole mindset of back of the baseball card kills this team every year because I think they know that they're going to get those numbers. But the problem is, even though they do get those numbers at the end of the year, they always dig themselves in this hole where they have to climb out of it. And instead of playing the Cubs last year here at Petco Park, because you took care of business in the regular season, you have to play at Wrigley Field, right? And I think that's going to be the same issue for them this season. They're going to put themselves in a tough playoff race, tough playoff positioning, because they dug themselves in such a big hole because the offense was, well, the back of my baseball card is going to look like that at the end of the season. And I just think that's a mindset change that this team needs to have in the future.
It's our Epic Padres Roundtable brought to you by Epic Wings. Always fresh, never frozen. Our special guest this week is former Padres pitcher Tim Stauffer. And I want to direct kind of my next question to you because we're going to talk about Nick Pivetta and Joe Musgrove's return. Nick Pivetta in particular dealing with flexor issues. You had to deal with that.
I did.
We saw the rehab start, the weird walking off the mound. We heard Joe talk a little bit about the uncertainty that you have as you're trying to rehab. What was your experience coming back from a flexor injury, and what observations can you kind of make about Nick Pivetta based on your personal experiences?
Yeah, I mean, just broadly, rehab appearance is just it's a weird. There's nothing that remotely sets you up for a big league game. Right. I mean, a rehab, just the energy in a minor league stadium, everything going into it, the adrenaline's just not there. I mean, you can try to convince yourself that it is, but it just isn't. The flexor injury in particular, I don't know the severity of his compared to what I had, is a tricky thing. With me, when I had it, I rehabbed for quite a while, rested, did the whole thing, cortisone, PRP. I felt great, especially coming off cortisone, live BP, some rehab starts. And then I had one start that year. My first start, might have been the game Harper hit his first home run. I can't remember off me, but
that's awesome.
I do remember that.
That's awesome.
Way to break him in, Tim.
Backdoor cutter caught a little too much plate, as my kids like to remind me. But yeah, the adrenaline was there for me, and about by the third inning, I could just kind of feel that flexor starting to tighten up again. And obviously, there's no correlation that Nick is dealing with the same thing, but it is a. When you have the torn ligament, it's pretty cut and dry, right? The flexor is a tricky little deal. I ended up missing that whole year, had surgery at the end of the year, came back, and it was fine after that. But I understand these guys want to be on the field. The team is hoping to get them on the field for a push. There's a lot of other moving pieces as we'll get into that go into this, but it is a tricky injury. The timing, coming off the field and then finishing up in the bullpen is also interesting. I think this next week, how they come out of these starts, the days in between the bullpen days are going to be really the determining factor of how they're used moving forward.
Benny, I don't want to steal your thunder, but we've got an ex-big leaguer here that watches a lot of games. Like Michael King, what are your kind of thoughts on him? Because I loved watching Michael King pitch, and I still do. And when he's moving it, it's like he has the ability to be the best pitcher in baseball on a given night. We've seen it here in San Diego. But are you seeing anything from him different this year? The velo's down a tick, but like he's gutting his way through 6 innings. Most times he's out there. But are you seeing anything different?
I think you can look at his track record and how he had been used and how much he was used last year. I think when you're not built for that, 200 innings, 180 innings year after year after year, I think coming off a big year, you can always, a lot of guys take that step back, just stuff wise, feel wise. I mean, it's not always just the velocity. The velocity
Right.
can be there. It's the location, the movement. I think when he's on, he's really good. I just think those games when he's on are just maybe a little bit less frequent this year.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that can be load. I mean, I don't think a pitcher's going to tell you that, but I think just an experience, seeing guys that have been fringe guys, bullpen guys that come full-time starting, I think that first year can oftentimes be very good. Second or third year, I think you can see some regression, and I don't think it's necessarily hitters figuring them out. I think it can just be a command,
Feel,
fatigue, and like I said, I don't think he would admit to that or say that, but I think that can be a factor. I don't think it's a metric where the slider's not spinning the right amount or that kind of thing. I think it's a long season. It's a lot of pitches. It's a lot of innings. I think. Yeah, it's tough. Hopefully the timing is good and he can find that groove towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because you want to finish with a good taste in your mouth, so to speak. And I think he has that in him. His stuff is good. We know what he can do when he's on. I think if you get 75-80% of his best, he's still a really good pitcher that's going to keep you in a game.
yeah.
I'm curious, just Tim, what, if you can remember, what was the maximum velocity you ever threw a pitch? Like clocked, whether college, pros, radar gun, behind the scenes, in a game? Like, what was your maximum?
At college, I was told 97.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
You didn't feel it?
I mean, I felt good that day. I still remember it was like 2002, and we were in Wake Forest, and hot day. We actually had like an hour-and-a-half rain delay. I came back out and pitched after. Probably not the best idea, but college coaches are necessarily
A10 pitcher of the year, right?
Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah,
but, it went down significantly after that. But I think in the big leagues, 95 was my high. I was usually low 90s, kind of two seam.
So when you see, Mason Miller, but a starter like Jacob Mizorowski hitting 103 regularly during a game, where do you think, where is he getting those 8 miles an hour? Like, where's the human body allowing you to throw that hard?
I mean, I think we've reached the max potential for that. I think the hard part seeing that is you're just kind of playing the waiting game, right? It's the human body it's amazing to see. I mean, the fans love it. Everybody loves seeing it, teammates when you're on, but it's a lot of stress, a lot of strain. I mean, I think that's why we're, the innings, and you just don't see that anymore. I think we could have this conversation all day long, right? The innings, the game, how the game's changed, but I just don't think it's sustainable long term. I think of a guy when I was towards the end of my career coming up, Noah Syndergaard, when he was with the Mets, and he was really good. I think this is 2015. I just was with them for a little bit, and he was pumping 97 to 100 every fastball. And we're like, hey, you can pitch at 95 and you'll be okay. When you need to, kind of Verlander late in the game, pump it up a little bit, you can. But, he just, when you can throw that hard, I guess it would be hard to not try to throw it as hard as you can every time. So you can't fault these guys. But I just think sustainability long term, it's not going to be there.
I just want to make sure everyone understands the difference, because you're talking about 8 miles an hour from 95 to 103. If you go down 8 miles an hour to 87, it's like, enjoy your beer league Sundays, kid.
Yeah.
There's no future for you in this game. But then you jump another 8. That's a huge difference.
It's unbelievable to see and watch, and seeing exceptional hitters. When I just think back of that Phillies game he had earlier this year, when you see some of the best hitters in baseball the looks on their faces after some of the swings they took. I'm like, that says it all right there. You can see the 103 in the life, but when you watch those guys make those faces on those swings, that's hard to humble,
and
humble big league
Mason
hitters
Miller's
like that.
slider, not even his fastball, but he throws a slider that I think it's like 10 point some inches. He has they miss it by the most, like a foot.
Yeah.
That's almost a foot away from the baseball that these best hitters in the world are coming to his slider.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think we're in an era right now where there's stuff being thrown out there that we've never seen. When you see guys throwing 98-mile-an-hour changeups, and I remember back like in the minor leagues, if a reliever came in 93, 94, you're like, man, this guy's pumping, right? And now you got probably kids in rookie ball sitting 95, just kids in high school. Like you're not getting drafted unless you're sitting 93, getting close to 100. So it's wild to see. I mean, you can't fault the players. It's just the way the game has evolved. For the betterment of the game, I don't know. I mean, we'll see how long term, right? I mean, 5-year, 10-year window, maybe not. You want these guys to be around and have long careers and see these guys for a long time. But it definitely has changed from the bottom up, and yeah, it's tough. I mean, I like when I hear Maddox's quote back in the day. It's like velocity will get you drafted, but he's like, at some point you got to learn how to pitch. And I think just seeing guys that still pitch, I love seeing that because it's just the pure game, but you can't fault guys giving it 100% effort either.
Chris, I didn't catch your show yesterday, but did you have any thoughts on Nick Pivetta and the weirdness of his rehab start and what you thought was kind of going on? I mean,
I was just scared when you said my name. You're going to ask how fast my fastest pitch was. And I was just sitting over here hoping we'd get to a different topic.
We've got time.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know how they have they want a salary cap and a salary floor. I don't know that my fastball made the fastball floor. So, but yeah, that was strange, I guess. The way he went off the mound, I came on that afternoon probably saying what most people were thinking, which was we can forget about Nick Pivetta. I just didn't see how he was going to be okay. So it was weird to find out that he had, went under the stands or down in a bullpen and threw 30 more pitches after that. But maybe it's a good sign. I was wondering, the way the Padres are piecing this whole thing together this year, and they've been successful, and everybody says it's not sustainable. Maybe you could do this pitching chaos, and how about having Pivetta and Musgrove be part of that?
Sure.
To have them throw 2 or 3 innings at a time every 4 days. I mean, maybe would be something they're more than capable of doing. I don't
That's
know.
probably the goal. That's honestly probably the goal for Joe Musgrove in October. If you can get to October, you're not going to be like, all right, you're game 3 starter if we make it. You know what I mean? I think that would be an adequate role for either of those guys. Should they make it back and feel good enough, Chris? I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, when Yamamoto's coming out and pitching the 8th and 9th or whatever in a World Series game, I think all bets are off the table when you get in October. And I think those are both 2 guys that would absolutely say, whatever you need me to do. I just saw Garrett Crochet has said, oh, you guys want to use me out of the pen? Fine. Whatever we need to win a World Series. Both those guys would do it.
From Garrett Crochet, it's kind of rich. Wasn't he the guy that only wanted to worry about his stats that one year? And remember, he didn't want to pitch beyond something.
Was that him or was that Josh Hader?
No, it was both of them, to be honest with you.
Crochet.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I do really think that, you don't have to worry about Musgrove or Pivetta, to me, working up to 7 innings or 110 pitches.
Exactly. You don't.
well, I think it's a really good idea. Unless you're the favorite. And Lynn, if you're the favorite like the Dodgers or you're the Brewers, you want to go pretty traditional. But Padres have nothing to lose.
Right.
Little chaos, a little surprise in the playoffs. And with the addition of Robbie Ray, an actual left-hander in your rotation, you could combine him with another starter, a 5-4 inning mix with a righty and a lefty to kind of combat a lineup and really make it difficult on the opposing manager. Chris, I think you're definitely onto something there. Let me shift to the big elephant in the National League West, the LA Dodgers. It's been a very huge topic this week post-trade deadline after they picked up Tarek Skubal. And I will admit, very few people said the Patriots were ruining the NFL when they went on their dynasty run. No one said the Chicago Bulls were ruining the NBA, I don't think, when Michael
Chris
Jordan
definitely didn't say that.
was winning 6 championships. But a lot of people feel like the Dodgers are ruining baseball. Do we agree at all with that sentiment? And if so, why do we feel like it's different in baseball than other sports, Chris?
Well, I'm going to just say that I don't totally know your answer, but we're in the midst of a situation where a lot of people do think the game needs to be fixed. So for the people who believe that, and we are going into what's going to probably be a lockout, the Dodgers are the poster child for that. And I think if the NBA had been in a similar situation, but they, didn't have a salary cap and the Bulls were paying all this money out to Jordan, et cetera, maybe it would have been different. Having said that, the reason we in San Diego complain about it, because we just don't like the Dodgers.
Right.
I'd be 100% honest with you. I think everyone will agree. This is not the Dodgers' problem or fault. It is the fault of every other team in Major League Baseball that can't or won't push the envelope as far as they can to try to keep up. I know the Dodgers have a big advantage, but they don't have such a big advantage that what we saw this week should have happened. To me, the Milwaukee Brewers, who have never won a World Series, they should have mortgaged anything.
They tried.
They didn't.
They did. They gave them their number one prospect, Jesus Mize. And yeah, I mean, that's the number one guy. Like, that's
I never read that they offered him at all.
Eno just told us. Eno just said it on our show. They offered Mize. I saw Pena, who's a really good prospect as well. And I know this because of my baseball card love. I have all sorts of different prospects, but allegedly the Dodgers wanted an arm, and they were not going to give up Logan Henderson, who is in their rotation.
Well, then I would have given him up,
Tigers
too.
wanted an arm, yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Tigers.
I would have given up whatever the Tigers wanted. You got to.
But they can't replace those guys as easily as LA can.
Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, I'm
if you're the Milwaukee Brewers, be mediocre for the next 10 years. This is your shot. Probably the best one you're ever going to have to win a World Series. Mizorowski, Skubal, you could have taken it all the way.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have Mizorowski to this level, I don't think, ever again, based on what Tim said, because it's hard to maintain it.
I think for me, I've ranted a couple of times this week about the Dodgers. I acknowledge they're smart, they're well put together, they should be one of the best teams in baseball. Yeah. The only thing that bothers me is that they make a lot of big mistakes, and they never get punished for them the way other teams get punished for their big mistakes.
For sure.
Any other team signs Kyle Tucker to a $60 million deal, and he has the season that he's having, that would devastate most other teams. With the Dodgers, it's a shrug, and we're still going to be one of the top seeds and the favorites in the World Series. I just want a system, Tim, in which, the Dodgers can't just make every mistake they want and always be able to just buy their way out of it every single time.
Yeah, I think 29 other fan bases would agree with you on that one too. It's like nothing we've ever seen before, really, in any sport, right? We talk about the Bulls. Yeah, you had the best player, maybe with the second best player. Baseball, there's a lot of pieces. There can be a lot of things that happen. When you have pretty much an all-star team out there, it is hard to lose a lot, right? You're going to win 100 games. Obviously, once you get to the playoffs, we've seen in the past, like last year, the Blue Jays were, an out away from
inch away.
Yeah. I mean, as close as you can get from upending them. Not that they aren't big spenders either, but seeing what Tampa can do in the regular season to win games, I don't think that works for every team. I do think the moves they've made, as everybody has touched on, is going to be a big topic this offseason, and something will have to change. What that is, I don't have the answer for that. But when you see Skubal go, it wasn't a surprise to me. I don't think it was probably a surprise to most people in the game. You just kind of assume they're going to get him, right? And that's kind of it's hard to see when you got a team that's just steamrolling everybody else the last couple of years. We want to see some continuity and differences of, like, in the NFL, right? Year to year, dynasties are over, and now it's how have worked their system has been, I think, beneficial to the league as a whole. Just each year is different. You don't know what you're going to get. I don't have the answer for that question, but it is a good question, and I think, it's hard to root for Blue.
I mean, Braden, I want big spenders to be rewarded for going for it. I think that's a good thing for baseball. I just don't know that having one team be so far above the big spenders is a good thing for baseball. And my quote all month has been, baseball doesn't have a parity problem. They have a Dodgers problem. It's just one team, really, that's kind of messing up the system.
Right, and they're very good at what they do. And and the thing is even if you, and I'm an advocate for the salary cap. I've said it on my show multiple times because I like the way the NFL does things. It rewards teams that do things right. So my argument for a salary cap is not to like make sure the Dodgers don't win anymore. I mean, the Dodgers are good enough where they could probably still be a dynasty with a salary cap. Sure. They know how to do things very well. I don't think anything takes away from that, but I don't want a league where money buys you out of problems. And that's what we have. I mean, this is a league where money can buy you out of problems. And a lot of people like, well, what about the Mets? Like, yeah, well, the Mets are just incompetent anyway, right? Like they've been incompetent. It doesn't really matter. But to me, it's like you can't have a system where you have one team, as you mentioned, like, you know, if the Padres signed Kyle Tucker in the offseason and didn't use it for pitching, right? And they didn't bring in Buehler or Marquez or any of those guys, and he had the season they had, this team would be awful. They would be awful, and it would kill the Padres. And it's the same thing for a lot of teams.
The Padres have some bad contracts. I mean, they paid way over too much for Xander Bogaerts,
but they did
and they've been good with him for 4 years.
They did exactly what you said you want teams to do, and they can't keep up. They tried. They tried to do it, and they ran. Guess what they did? They ran out of money. They can't keep going like this because they tried to match L.A. They've tried. Has anybody disagreed with that they tried to match LA? They tried. They gave out the big contracts, and guess what they did? They ran out of money. So when Bogaerts doesn't work out, it's not like, oh man, that didn't work out, but you know, let's go get another $35 million and pull it out of thin air and go get the best starting pitcher on the market. It doesn't work like that. I think a lot of fans don't understand, and I heard it from the analysts too. The analysts don't understand, where are they pulling this money from? Is it coming out of thin air? I mean, at the end of the day, and I don't want to defend owners on this, but at the end of the day, this is a business, correct? Is it the owner's job and is it teams' jobs to not make money for the betterment of their team winning? I mean, they still have to make money, right? So where is the money coming from? And if everybody has to continue to do this, it's not going to be sustainable either. I look more at the percentages of your revenue being spent more than the actual number. The Red Sox make way more money than everybody else and don't put nearly as much in their team. Nobody gives the Red Sox crap for not spending money.
People in Boston do.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
The Cubs, same thing.
Well, if you're going to do
they make tons of money, and they don't put the same percentage in the money. The Padres are spending around the same kind of percentages, but if I'm spending 65% of my revenue on payroll, and so are the Dodgers, but the Dodgers are making way more in revenue, I'm still competing with them, but they have so much extra funds. That's what needs to be fixed, is the amount that you're allowed to spend, because you have teams trying to compete and they're spending the revenue that they have. Look, there's the Pirates of the world, right? Like, they don't spend, they're a problem too, but we can't just sit here and say everybody can do what the Dodgers do. I think it's the laziest take that national media gives.
Yeah, I think it is too. And like when it leaked out, we talked about this when I was on vacation. You know, it mysteriously leaks out. He has said that his preferred destination in free agency is LA.
Right.
Well, if you're Milwaukee, why on the planet am I giving up 3-4 top prospects when I know this guy is a rental if I win the World Series? And then I got to replace these 4 top. I completely understand their reluctance to do it. I also think it would have been really cool to see, but that's a mistake the Dodgers can recover from and Milwaukee can't or won't. They won't.
And you can't blame Scooble either. I mean, if you're a player, Tim, if somebody gave you a ton of money to be on an all-star team, would you ever say no? And to live in Southern California?
Right.
No. And what deters, this is what the salary cap does, is if you want to do that, that's fine. But then your money you're making affects the rest of your roster. So all the top players can still get paid a ton of money, but instead of going to LA and being surrounded by a bunch of all-stars, maybe you got to go to Kansas City. Maybe you got to go to Minneapolis. Maybe you got to go to a place that you don't necessarily want to live, but you can still make the big money. That's like that's the decisions that get made in the NFL.
And the NBA.
And anybody else that has a salary cap.
I just want you to know that Braden's younger than all of us. He hasn't figured out as much as I have that life just is not fair.
That's true.
It's
not going to get fair, buddy.
But I'm trying to, I view it from a standpoint of like, what's going to make this the most entertaining? And the Dodgers problem is the problem that Ben said. And if they win every year, and this is an entertainment business, I don't know how they're going to keep having people that are not like us, diehard fans, but fringe people.
I mean, I think the answer is just an insanely high salary cap.
Yeah,
but
I think
one that's
that's fair.
below what the Dodgers are spending.
Right.
They may say, oh, that's unfair, but it won't really affect the other 28 to 29 teams, but it will affect the Dodgers. I just don't know that the players' union would necessarily go
don't
for
you
it.
also have to figure out something to put a limit on the deferred
That's what I was just
money?
gonna-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They got $1.1 billion, I believe, that they're going to be paying out in 2040 or something. That
the
needs to
American
be
way, though.
addressed. If
Yeah,
you're going
and
to address
if
the
in
rest of this.
2040, if in 2040 they have an $82 million payroll while they're paying off Shohei Ohtani into
Right.
retirement and they're finishing with 117 losses, then we can laugh at them then. But my guess is they won't.
That probably won't
Yeah.
happen.
You know what? We're way too late for our seventh inning stretch. That's fine. I'll skip over it because I want to get to this last question. Kwanzaa Jones and Jose E. Feliciano expected to be approved as Padres' new control people and owners, maybe even in this next week. Anyone want to say what you want them to be their first big act in the first few weeks? Like something for San Diego, something for the Padres, a contract extension or something like a statement, Tim. I don't know how much you've thought about the new ownership, but do you want to see something like a symbol of the new ownership when they come in?
That's a great question. Gosh, I mean, getting to the playoffs would obviously be an easy thing
Sure,
to.
that'd be happy. That'd make us all smile.
Yeah, make us all smile.
They can't really do anything about it at this point, though. That's all on the
I
field.
mean, I think it comes to a little bit more long term how they're gonna spend money, keep spending money, keep making the team relevant each year. I think a here and now instant splash would be. That's a tough. That's
That's hard to do in not only after the trade deadline, but also with a lockout potentially coming up. It could be really quiet. Woods, we've kind of speculated. There's one guy you could sign to an extension right now that I think would make a lot of Padres fans happy.
Mason Miller or Adrian Morejon.
Adrian Morejon would be the first one just because he's approaching free agency so quickly.
Yep, Adrian Morejon would be great. Came up in this organization, wants to be in this organization. You know who will be after him next year as soon as it's open to go get a guy like that. That's not something I don't think I can stomach. But I would like to see it. I mean, I like big grand gestures, so I think that'd be fantastic. But they need to. I've said it before. Need to carry on the legacy of how Peter Seidler did things.
Braden, would you want to see something for the fans, like reach out and lower prices on some concessions or something just to acknowledge the new ownership as they come in?
No, I'm all about owners spending money on players, especially in a league where you can spend a ton of money. So I mean, the prices are what the prices are, and that's they can set what they want. That'd be kind of cool. But if they want to throw out a bunch of money and compete with the Dodgers, that sounds a little bit more cool to me.
Chris, how important is it that the new owners put a good foot forward as they enter this community where presumably they may be part of this for a long time?
Ask Casey Mize about making a first impression. You touched on what I was thinking, honestly. They sent out a notice yesterday that season ticket prices are going up next year, and they're going to let everybody know in the next couple of days just how much that is. Why don't you come in and say, you know what, we're not going to allow that to happen. We're going to have 1 year where it's frozen, maybe 2 years where it's frozen. And you know what? $50 is absurd to park. And I know there's a lot of different ways, and people have their hands in that cookie jar. And yeah, it's going to take some money off your bottom line. Pass it along to the fans. You want to do something like that? You might be the first ownership ever to do it. But I'll tell you one thing, I'd sure like you.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't shocked about the season ticket thing. I mean, everything Woods and I were talking about, everything is getting more expensive.
The guy made a great
Yeah.
point. He said, because I wrote and I said, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I said, I can't think of anything in my life that has gone down. A guy wrote, well, what about televisions? I go, you know what? You're right, dude. You got it. You're absolutely right. What I spent.
Then give every fan a free television.
What I spent in 1993 for a 40-inch TV, I could get for $50 now. Like, it's crazy. So I'll give you TVs. Other than that, everything else is through the roof.
Free TV when you buy season tickets. They'll
Yeah, well,
send
that
it in the mail.
1993 television also weighed about
7,000 pounds.
1,000 times what a television weighs right now. I don't know what they were putting in those things that made them so heavy. I want to thank Tim Stauffer for coming in. This was very
awesome.
fun.
Thank you guys for
Really
having
good
me.
perspective and good to see a fun face. I know Padres fans always like to get caught up with the alums and how they're doing. So it was good to see you, and we appreciate it.
Thank you guys. It was fun.
All right, we will see what the Padres do. Obviously, a huge game tonight. As I said on our show, maybe the most important regular season game so far for the Padres, just with tiebreaker.
Until tomorrow's game.
No, because that's tomorrow's
Oh,
game
I know
against
what
an
you're
American
saying.
League team.
Yeah,
You got tiebreaker implications, season series stuff that really kind of is important tonight. But then the Houston Astros coming in over the weekend, and we'll be back next Thursday with another Epic Wings, Epic Padres Roundtable here on 97.3 The Fan. Get your wings always fresh, never frozen. We got some waiting for us right here. For Braden Soprano, Stephen Woods, Chris Ello, and Tim Stauffer, I'm Ben Higgins. Have a great rest of your Thursday from all of us here at San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.
Nobody knows San Diego's